So hello everybody. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time for the review of a quiz and then explain a little bit more about upcoming midterm exam, and then I will give a lecture on Kamakura period. So I think you are looking at the content, right? As always, where do you go first? You go to announcements and you check the announcements, and then you go to course information to check deadlines, and then you click the content. So we are here at the content, and then going down. So currently you are still working on unit 2, and then I already saw a few discussion posts in it. And discussions are available here under discussions, right? So I'm reading your submissions, and then you also have to add 2 replies. I want you to have some sort of a conversation among each other. Now, this is the quiz. So quiz is due June 4th, meaning you can take it from now until the end of tomorrow. So if you open quiz, you have these 4 components of it. And I already sent little summary of the quiz in the announcements. So chronology, there are 15 different periods, and they are, like from the Jomon Yayoi Kofun period and then all the way to Meiji, and then Showa period, Taisho Showa, and then Second World War, and then Heisei. It doesn't have a Reiwa period, but we are now living in the late Reiwa period. So this slides for all the quiz is available in the introduction. Remember, there was an introduction where you saw a lot of maps of Japan. So that's basically the material that you have to study. So chronology, and then islands of Japan. There are 4 questions. So 4 major islands, right? All the way on the up, you have Hokkaido, like a Honshu, and then a little bit down there is a Shikoku, right? And then another like a soccer ball style large island. It's called Kyushu. So you have a 4 major island, and then in fact there is another archipelago, like a group of islands called Okinawa. But Okinawa is really far down in the Pacific. So you have to identify 4 major islands, which is easy. And the regions of Japan, of course, you have to study 9 regions. But because it's a multiple choice, I have only 4 questions. So 2 of them are true or false. So it's like this. So the Kyushu is the regional name of Kyushu Island is the same as their regional name, their island name. Something like that, and you will say that's true because Kyushu itself create one region, right? Or the Hokkaido, the northern island, that itself is a one region, right? Shikoku, like another island, is also region as well as island. But Honshu itself, you are going to have what? 5 different regions. So that you have to remember, like Tohoku, Chubu, those names. And I want you to study those. And so there are 4 true false questions. And then I also emphasize that the name of Kansai and Kanto are important. Remember Kansai and Kanto? These are also part of 9 regions, but basically Kansai and Kanto are centers of commercial and political activities. Kansai is where Kyoto is, Imperial Palace, and then Kanto is where Tokyo is, modern capital. So I think you can do it well. So 2 are true and false questions, and then the other 2 are clicking on the map. So if you see the map of Japan, you can click on that area, and then because I chose an area a little bit wide, a little bit wide, anywhere you click, you will be marked as correct. You will know when you take the quiz. And then cities of Japan, there are 15 different cities. Again, if you go to that introduction slide, there are a number of maps showing tourist centers as well as large towns with a lot of populations. So you should be able to know major cities. In the quiz, I only ask 15 of them. So you can imagine like 15 largest cities scattered around from the Hokkaido all the way to the Kyushu. the sort of how do you call it, regional capital of Kyushu or regional capital of Hokkaido. Those cities are important, like Fukuoka for Kyushu, and then Sapporo for Hokkaido. Like those are important, and then other major cities. So basically, 9 cities each are regional capitals of 9 regions, and then you have some other important towns like Nagasaki, Hiroshima, and so forth. So I think you can do this well. And each of them, you have 30 minutes. I give you enough time, but I hope you don't cheat on the test. I cannot really watch you what you are doing, but I think it's your integrity. If you had studied, I want you to test your own intellectual capacity, right? Like if you memorized it, you go back and then try. And if you somehow, if your Wi-Fi connection is not good, or you somehow felt that you know the answer but you answered wrong, you can email me that I can give you another opportunity. This type of test is called developmental. It's not like a one final thing at the end of the semester. This is more like a help you to check whether you understood or whether you memorized or not. So I want you to set aside a little bit of time, maybe 45 minutes, and then you just, review it, and then you take the test. And if you take all components, it will take less than 20 minutes. On the Blackboard, where you can find the file is here. If you go to content, here, intro, there are 2 PowerPoints, right? So do you see this intro JP? Do you all have this file saved in your computer? So that's where you can find materials for map and chronology.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Oh, and then I'm going to stop sharing, and then I can show you the open slide. So now you're looking at my intro. Do you see intro JP? And chronology is here, right? I updated this with Reiwa, where we are living. So this PowerPoint is available. So you just print this out and, review it a few times and make sure that you understand the flow of it. And then the map is somewhere around here. So we talked about the Kanto and then the Kansai area. And then these are the 9 regions, remember? So all of these cities you should know. These are regional capitals: Sapporo, Tokyo, Takayama, Kyoto, Hiroshima, Fukuoka. But then there are more cities that you should know. And here in this map, you should know where all of these cities are. Basically, almost the same, but another map. And then this is really helpful map to show you the really major cities popular among tourists. So that's it. So Kyushu, for example, Fukuoka is not a major tourist town. It's actually Nagasaki. And then I think that's it. So if you study these first 4 or 5 slides, you are all set. Any other questions? Catherine?
Yeah, I just have a question about, because I know you mentioned in one of your lectures about the spelling. So how close do you want it to be perfect?
This one, you are not going to write anything. This is choosing. So for example, chronology, there are already 15 periods randomly written, so that you are going to place them. What is number 1? What is number 2? You are going to put the number right next to the period name.
Okay, so even with the cities, we're not spelling out.
You are not spelling it out.
Okay.
And then this is a good question, Catherine. Later in midterm exam, there are a few questions where you have to write down some terms or name of the artist. But in it, again, I factored in that some may spell with wrong vowel, so that eventually I can check all the answers, and then I can overrule if it's marked wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, I know what you are trying to do. The point is I want my students to learn and to retain the memory, but I don't want to punish you, so I can tell, like somehow they want you to really write down Jo Cho, remember the sculptor's name, but somehow they wrote like a Jo Chi. So you are not going to get a full score, but you will get most of the score. So we talked about quiz, and then midterm exam is coming up. So I want to give a little bit of idea. It's always nice to give you a heads up. So going to, where's my blackboard, and then so now you are looking at the blackboard. So if you go to content, again, the intro JP, that's where you can find the slide, and then going to content. So Kamakura period is what I am going to lecture today. So you cannot open it yet, but if you open it later, you will see the PowerPoint again, and then our usual slideshow like this. So this is very important, Rise of the Samurais. I usually put themes, the most important themes of this period, so you can read the overview. And then this is really the beginning of shoguns. You probably heard of a movie entitled Shoguns, or like a Seven Samurais, or what else? There's another movie where Tom Cruise appears. I forgot what the name is, but that's all about like the shoguns, warriors, they are politicians, and that change took place in Kamakura period. So I want you to really remember, and Kamakura is name of the town. So can you find its location on the map? I sometimes throw a question to engage you. So think about it. Where was Kamakura? It was in between Kyoto and Tokyo, right? Somewhere in the between. So in a way, it's in the middle of nowhere, because Kamakura warriors didn't want to have influence, like a large influence by the imperial family or these long aristocratic families. They wanted to start new. So anyhow, so you can read a little bit more, and then so if you go to the Metropolitan Museum or any other types of museum, you are going to see a lot of arms and armor. And historically, we can find authentic arms and armor from the Kamakura period on. And Japan, I mean, I always emphasize this. We have to thank Japanese ancestors for taking really good care of their heritage or their cultural artifacts. They're made of wood, remember, like cypress wood and other types of wood. And then they suffered from major earthquakes throughout the periods, and fires and famines and other natural disasters like hurricanes. But they still preserve their cultural heritage as early as the Asuka period. Remember Horyuji Temple? When it comes to arms and armor, I want you to read a little bit, because that's what usually students are very interested in. Like, when I ask why Japanese art, like 50% of them say that they want to know more about the Japanese samurai culture. So we'll read a little bit more about the samurai armor. It's really well made. I don't talk a lot about armor in my own class. I focus more on painting and sculpture, or religious art objects. But armor, they remain in abundance. So you can take a look and then admire those intricate techniques. And Amida Raigo, how many of you remember Amida Raigo that I lectured in Heian? Probably you didn't see it yet. So Amida Raigo is very important iconography. And you will see this iconography still popular in the Kamakura period. So I want you to read a little bit more. And then we saw another example of Japanese hair scrolls in Heian period, and that continues in the Kamakura period. And basically, Kamakura period is when ordinary citizens of Japan, meaning not aristocrats, like not imperial family, like somebody who's humble and ordinary, like merchants, farmers, and low-class warriors, like these ordinary citizens like us, right? Like you and me. Those people are starting their devotion to Buddhism. Until Heian period, like after Buddhism was introduced in Asuka period, like Asuka, Nara, Heian, those three periods, Buddhism was mainly an area of spiritual devotion among the upper class people, meaning imperial and aristocratic families. But if we come to Kamakura period, you are going to see that religion of Buddhism is spread or is somewhat important among ordinary citizens as well. So this is my historical survey. And then before I go into the PowerPoint, where you are going to download here, I want to talk a little bit about midterm exam. So Kamakura period is short, meaning unit 4 is relatively short. So you study this in like a couple of days, then you can work on the discussion. So discussion is there is a non-diamond, colossal gate, and then inside you're going to see this. It's called what is it? The R and Q, like a two colossal here R and Q, like a two colossal guardian figures. So you can read it and then talk about the Unkei and Kaikei. They are descendants of Jocho that I talked about in Heian period. Anyhow, so that's the discussion. So after your discussion, you can take midterm exam. So that's the idea. So together you get 4 days. So you finish your Kamakura period, and then let's say maybe save 2 days. So you spend 1 day, going over from prehistory, Asuka, Nara, and Heian period. Midterm exam does not include Kamakura. So that you can focus on Asuka, prehistory, Asuka, Nara, and Heian period. Midterm exam, if I click open, there is exam review, which will be available soon when we start Kamakura period. So I selected about 15, 20 most important works. So exam is only out of this review section. And then you have a slide, about 10 questions. And then terms and techniques, that's what you have to study with here. I showed you, techniques and materials of Japanese art, right? So you memorize those things. And then midterm exam, if you go in here, we have essay. I always like students to write an essay, sort of an open book test. So you can prepare in the beginning. And I all have this topics ready. So don't feel anxious. Midterm exam folder will open around June 10. So on June 10, which is let me think about when I am going to give you a review. I mean, I think Monday, June 8 is better. Anyhow, so after Kamakura period, we are like more than halfway through. So we are on a good track to finish it. So that's Kamakura period, the historical background. And then I talked a little bit about upcoming midterm exam, but both are together in the same period. Unit 4 period, you're going to finish Kamakura and midterm exam.